No, we have to wait till the red thing starts.
Oh, no, okay.
YouTube and Facebook. Welcome to our live board meeting. I think it's number 11 at this point. And we actually have agenda items that I put on. Strangely, the Venezuela thing got moved down and down and down because there's actually, I was like, let's have a topic that we can talk about that isn't necessarily that, because we seem to do everything in 5 minutes. But now we have actual agenda items.
Okay.
I don't know if Bentley is coming. We'll see, but we will. So our Facebook group is growing rather rapidly, especially after we were featured in Rebel Wisdom, both Game B, but also Game B Projects was actually featured as one of the symbols. They put our banner up, so therefore I think people actually Googled Game B Projects, because Game B is also kind of hard to find because of the space thing and so many Game B Facebook groups. Anyway, we have over 200 members now. Do we want to have our own criteria for admittance? Maybe just some questions that are express why we exist, as well as why do you want to be here? Right? What's your project, or what are you interested in? So it even just gets their wheels turning. Any thoughts? Any thoughts on what questions?
I think I guess the easiest one to start with is sort of do you have a project? Do you want to help on projects? And then I guess a layer down from that is, sort of what's your skill set? What if you have a project, what do you do in the project? If you want to help with the project, what have you done? What are you interested in doing? That sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that.
I mean, I really wish that Facebook worked differently, because we don't have access to those questions after you've answered them, right? So
seriously?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be the case. So you can go back, not that I know of anyway, even as an admin of Game B, I think you can go back and see what people answer. So it's like really just an admittance part. But I also don't know whether anyone can admit people in our group or just the admins, because there's a possibility that if we have the questions, we can, as we admit people, copy and paste them over to something, right? So that we can say, and then get the people who are already in there to answer them as well. I know we've tried to have a few questionnaires that haven't quite worked out. But yeah, anyway, I think having questions is a good idea. Maybe Carrie and I could work together to come up with some, because Carrie seems to want to do more of the back-end customer relation management part. So whatever would facilitate that process makes sense as well, right? Without having too many questions, like 1 or 2 questions to say, are you in the right place, right? Are you adding, and are we going to add to yours? And so I think that just acknowledging that, and then maybe if Bentley gets here, we can talk about that as well. The other thing, I'm just going to flip this around. Adriel, is the NAC tool still a thing? Are we still using that?
We've been using it. No one's really been, it exists, but no one's really been using it, so I haven't been.
I was going to ask you, do you want me to sort of be able to sort of update it and start linking things? Because I went and had a look, and there was lots of stuff that was there, but I noticed there was lots of other stuff that's not there. And I was thinking, if you wanted me to go in the back end and maybe look after it and link with everything's supposed to go and add things as you're going, because I know you're probably busy with other stuff as well. So I just thought, as a way of helping you, sort of put the, update on everything.
Luckily, the back end isn't great. It's kind of all one big lump that's also used for stuff for wiki election and a bunch of stuff, so it's not great.
Well,
and a lot of it.
Do you want me to look after it then?
Not yet. I think we're in the process of doing a an early mock-up of wiki election that might, once that's ready, I might kill the wiki election part of NAC, and then it might be purely TogetherTec Game B projects, and then it might be easier for people to take it over and help.
Well, if you want me to maybe help you with the TogetherTec and maybe start one for that and start that and link everything if you wanted to, because I'd be quite happy to do that.
We can look at that.
You know what I mean? Because I think that would be helpful. Because they because I know they've got the Google Docs about TogetherTec, because I'm trying to think of ways to try. As I said, I've watched all your videos and that, and listened to what you said. And as I said, I just want to go in and behind you and clean up and put everything. So because I feel like unless somebody's had a conversation with you, they might not know to look. And when they do go to look, they might not see what, you know what I mean? Because they might not see what I've seen, which I've seen a lot, you know what I mean? So I just like to sort of like pull all the bits together, you know?
It would be nice if there was zero expectation that anyone watches past hours of TogetherTec.
Well,
like what you did, I feel like is more work than any of us have put in. Rewatching our meetings is more painful than sitting through
but
them.
in order to get an understanding of who you are, what you're about, what you're trying to all bring into being, I think you need to do, well, I needed to do that in order for me to find out, because I know there's something between the lot of yous that I absolutely love, right? And I just want to help as much as I can. And while I'm rubbish at process and data and meta, I'm just like, what are you talking about? I could, as I said, I can go up and clean up after you. You know, so when someone's strange, you might fall across you, might go, oh, what's this? You don't want to be losing that interest. You know what I mean? So you want to be able to give them a place that maybe not Facebook, not anywhere, just out there on the web. And then they can find you that way and then say, all right, okay, this is where everybody's at. That's what they've done. You know what I mean? So,
I think there's a lot of value in that, especially for people coming and understanding what and who we are, as well as what they can offer and what we can offer them, right? We don't, besides coming to these meetings and just attending the Facebook page, we don't have that, but it is naturally emerging, right? You're here. It's like it is coming together. So that's awesome. Bentley missed the first part. We're just talking about adding questions to our Facebook group because we're over 200 members at the moment and what those could look like. That NAC is still a thing, but it's in its not infancy. It's in transition, right? So possibly having one that's just TogetherTec. If Carrie wants to work on that, figuring that process out. I don't know if we're coming to a conclusion, but. And the other thing on the agenda item was the customer management tool. Carrie had sent a link out. I put it on the agenda. It's
called Civic CRM. I think it's a pre-download, and it's based in I'm used to using Drupal, but there's Drupal ones there, and there's Joomla and whatever. But I just think, in terms, because I know some of the CRM tools are really expensive. Right, and unless you're already bringing loads of money and sales teams in, and that, it's, for something like this, it's emerging and getting together. I think it'd be really good because then you can sort of like, if you're having a conversation with somebody, if there's a group of us that, as I said, I can help with the admin of that as well, and if you're adding conversations and people and organizations, and then it'll be able to help you. For when, as I said, all your projects are emerging and stuff like that, and the people who you're working with and the conversations you can have in. And so, say like if I meet somebody that Jubilee is talking to and we're working together, to be able to have that conversation thread in the same place so you can actually see, so people don't actually get spammed with shit they're not interested in. You know what I mean? And it's just what they're interested in. And then you can find out more about what likes, dislikes, what buzz the shit at them. You know what I mean? What they care about. And because I do feel with all the conversations that you've had, if there's one central place where we can keep all that, then you can find out, like if I wanted to ask you, well, who was that? Oh, well, that was so-and-so. How to get in touch with that? Oh, I don't know. They just turned up and then they just disappeared. You know what I mean? So, to connect all the network and people together, I think it's probably needed. As I said, I was just trying to find things that were cheap and not so expensive.
Right. And that's kind of the end goal for the NAC prototype, is to be able to track sort of the projects, the people, and then these sort of sessions where you say, hey, here's a session that happened on June 19th. Here's all the people involved. And then if you say, hey, Bentley had some cool stuff to say. I want to go see what else he's been in. Then you can go to Bentley and see a history. Yeah,
well, that's what I was thinking. If for the group that the committed group that you've got, right? If you have the CRM stuff, whereas it's yourselves, and then have the NAC thing as the public face of it. So then you can put out, and this is why I was thinking about trying to sort of like clean up behind you and make sure that, if someone was interested, that they can find what Bentley said, what Matthew said, what you said, your project, and you know what I mean? So I can go and I can do that for you. That's what I'd like to do, because then I feel like I'm more useful to you as well.
Right. Yeah, I might be able to make some changes to the knack thing to let you sort of go in there and add stuff. And part of the thing, it was designed to sort of let people decide what they want of their own stuff to be public, mostly for projects.
Right, okay.
Because we've seen, I think, at least now 10 different permutations of people joining and then being like, hey, let's get a list going of all the different projects. And so we've seen bits and pieces of that. And we had a spreadsheet. I just didn't want to sort of volunteer people who's filled out the spreadsheet to go on to the knack prototype.
No, totally. But like, obviously, it'd be sort of like, if they wanted that,
right.
Then you know what I mean. So it wouldn't like they just get thrown on there without the consent or anything, And like, well, obviously, if I go in and tidy up and get everything how it should be, and then say, look, we've got this project and we're collecting projects, because I do think you need to connect people with what they're doing and what they're interested in. And then obviously, as you grow in that, you can see what sort of areas that people are in. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause I'd like to know, because we all this talk about holochain and currencies and that. I'd like to know the people from GameBee who are actually involved in that and what they're doing and the projects and stuff. So I think, I think it'd be a good way of actually, let me tidy it up and then see, and then you can have a look. And then obviously, as you're going along board meetings, people come along, and then I can maybe go and have conversations with them after the board meeting to, find updates, what they're, how far they've got, because I think it'd be nice when the people who come to actually go back and say and have a one-to-one and say, right, how did that go? What are you still needing stuff? You know what I mean? So I'm like the cleaner with the mop and the bucket.
Yeah, I think that will definitely help, because that was honestly one of the things that made the prototype not really take off, was that I think a lot of people didn't want to have to worry about another login. They didn't want to have to worry about learning another tool. Yeah. But if there's somebody sort of acting as like the go-between, so if you're the one sort of managing the actual database and then going and reaching out and saying, hey, that person filled out a spreadsheet saying they have a project, just ping them directly on Facebook and say, hey, I'm doing this. Do you want to be a part of it? I'll just, add you to the list. If you say yes, you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, no, because as I said, they're busy doing.
Right.
So it'd be good to sort of like say, right, how are you doing? What progress are you at? Are there any things that you need, or anything we can maybe help you with, or is there anything you're looking for that you might want people to know that you're after? You know what I mean? So I just think that, for me to offer you that, because I want to do that for you.
Can the CRM tool and the knack, is it there? Because I very quickly looked at the CRM tool and it said it can be integrated with things like WordPress, and I don't know what that looks like, but whether knack is one of those things that can be integrated with.
Yeah, I think you can integrate wikis and stuff with it as well. As I said, it can be customized depending on what sort of like content management system you're using. Like, because I'd looked at the one for Drupal, but there's also one for Joomla as well. So it depended on what you're using, and it may have a specific wiki. It's but you would need to ask the programmers and stuff, because basically it's just a basic download, and then you can run it from whatever site you're hosting it from.
So what was that CRM that we're suggesting?
Civic
Go to the
CRM.
agenda. I put a link.
Right. It's called Civic.
The agenda is linked in the private chat.
It's got a sandbox demo type. So if you go to the site, there's a demo, and it'll give you different operating systems, which will let you go in and muck about with it and see whether it's useful to you.
CiviCRM.org.
Cool. Yeah, that's worth looking into.
Is everyone looking at the tool?
I think so. This must be riveting to watch.
That's right. I'm here for spectators, although I appreciate them.
Okay, yeah. So I think we can probably dive deeper into that. I'll take a look. We'll see sort of how flexible it is and how much we can change the database setup to sort of skew to our needs and track the stuff that we'd be interested in.
Good. And I think it's important, whoever's taking on that work, it's a tool that works for them, right?
Yeah.
That the integration. And you've put in time on NAC and then figuring out this new tool and if they can go together, which means I don't know why I'm talking because I don't know either of those things. NAC nor Pacific. Just if it makes sense to Adriel and it doesn't make sense to Carrie, that wouldn't make sense if Carrie's the one doing the work is all. But we also don't want someone to come in and do all the work and then go away and not have,
No. Well, as I said, this is why I think the Civic CRM, because you can have sort of like members in there. So say like the group of you. So say like AJL Jubilee, Bentley has access to that. If I drop dead tomorrow, you'd still have access to it. You know what I mean? You wouldn't, because this is what I think about people that start things and if they disappear and then just you know what I mean? It's just like, oh shit, they disappeared and all that work and we can't get access to it and blah blah blah. You know what I mean? So I think it'd be useful for you, Jubilee, as well, because you could just instead of you having spreadsheets on Google Docs and stuff like that, you could put your stuff in there that we could see, and then and it'll keep you right as well, in terms of who you're speaking to and as well, you know what I mean?
It would have to be as easy as putting it on a table.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, cool. It seems like it's something that we need to download and then install onto some kind of a server. I'm not sure how we access that.
If you haven't got hosting capabilities, I signed up with Green Geeks ages ago, and they said buy a domain name and you can host as many domain names as you like. And I haven't done bugger all with it anyway. So if you need in somewhere, as long as you've got the domain name for whatever it is you're doing, I could probably host it and give you access. You know what I mean? Or if you can get maybe one of the programmers to come and give us a hand, sort of like, putting the stuff on it so we could run it from that. That would be great, because as I said, I haven't been using it for ages, so, and you can have as many domain names and you can host as much as you like. So, I'm quite happy to offer that as well.
Cool. And you've actually used this before?
Yeah, well, as I said, I've used Drupal, and I tried to build myself a site before Facebook using Drupal, and it's quite a good operating content management software. I think it's a lot better than Joomla, but the learning curve is quite steep, because what happened to me was I get people giving me things, right? And I was like, oh, I can create a network with all these people. I just want to talk to people and that. And then all the, people who were helping me with the programming and that, they kind of legged it. So they'd help me for a little bit and then they'd go away. So I ended up having to install it myself and that. And it's all a question of modules of what you need. And you can build it as, what you need as you go, because that's why I like Drupal rather than the other ones. And that's open source software as well. So it doesn't cost you anything to install and download. The only problem I had was making it look pretty, because I didn't have any CSS skills or HTML and that. Whereas I could install modules, but I didn't know what I was doing with them. And I was trying to learn. I was trying to gather loads of people while trying to learn programming skills at the same time, and it was murder. You know what I mean? So if I've got somebody, if I've got somebody I can talk to and say, right, I'm having problems with this, teach me or show me how to do that, and then then I don't need to bother them again. Not constantly be at them like, why is this not working? Or have you turned your computer on? You know what I mean? Stupid questions.
All right, yeah, I think we can definitely start looking into where the hosting is and what sort of customizations we make and actually get in there and do it, because that sounds useful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more actually in the world that I'm used to operating in. That's what I do for my day job, is I manage a CRM.
Oh, do you? Nice. Yeah. Okay. Well, you'll know how powerful it is, though, in terms of sort of like collecting data. Well, not even data, just so you know, because you can't keep everything in your head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And having loads of notebooks all over the shop is okay sometimes, but then you can't find anything you need, eh?
All right. So what are we doing? So we can't necessarily do it during this hour, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
What are we setting up for either 2 weeks from now, next week, or do Adriel and Carrie want to have a conversation outside of this? Like what is actually happening?
Well, I you know, if you want a conversation about this, Adriel, I'd be quite happy to do that as well. So if you want to.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we can set up something. I do want to be cautious not to take on too much more because we're kind of in the process of trying to make the actual coded prototype for Wiki Election, and I imagine that will start to take more time.
Mm-hmm. Well, if we do this, then that'll free up your time because you won't have to worry about anything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sorry, Bentley, you were going to say something?
Yeah. So I was just trying to find out. So they do have hosting on their thing, and then Carrie has that option. I'm just wondering, Carrie, when you're saying that you can host it, are you saying that you know how to set all that up, or you need someone with technical...
I just need a wee bit of help, right? Because I haven't looked at it for a while. It's a site called Green Geeks. As I said, they make you pay for a domain name, but underneath that domain name, you can actually set things up yourself and have as many as you want. But I would need a little bit of help, maybe sort of like installing. If there's anybody around who might be able to offer a bit of help, you know.
Yeah, it's just hard to tell kind of looking at the site that if you don't choose their hosting options, how difficult is it to stand up?
Actually not. I've seen to install a Drupal installation. It's not very difficult at all because I've actually done it myself years ago. But as I said, I just need a bit of help.
Well, so, I mean, it says integration with Drupal. Are you saying that it would use Drupal as the full backend and you don't need a separate service? And I may be asking questions in a way that's not clear, but...
yeah, so it's like, say if you set up a Drupal installation, you'd be able to install that, and then you wouldn't have to use their service, you know what I mean? There's people
but
there...
you don't have to install something else other than Drupal for Civic CRM to work.
No.
Okay, because it's not clear on the website that
Right, okay.
when they just say it integrates. They didn't say that it could use the CMS as the back end, but that's probably what they mean, but they're just not very clear.
Mm-hmm.
I could go to the developer docs and maybe it'll say, but it'd take a little while to look at and figure out. Because and when you say you have Green Geeks, I mean, doesn't that have a cost for hosting?
Well, it does. Like, I've been paying for it yearly. I pay for it yearly. I think it's $100 for what I've got a year to host stuff, and then that's it. You don't get charged for however many sites you host off that.
Yeah, until, I mean, we won't be using a lot of resources, so that'll work. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, right now I don't have any. I guess I have one running server that I could also put it on, but it's running a different technology base, so if you have something that's compatible, that'd be easier.
Yeah, the Green Geeks pricing looks pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I guess we can, Carrie and I can connect probably just over Facebook to figure out where we want to take this so that we're not all just reading various websites while we're in a live stream.
Yeah. Did we have other topics on the agenda?
So the other one before you got here was just the Facebook group, having our own criteria. Maybe we want to come up with 1 or 2 questions, and then we can talk about outsourcing to Venezuela, which was my topic, because we usually don't have things on the agenda. So
yeah. Did y'all talk about questions already, or
just like, what is your project, or what kind of projects are you interested in? Just something that makes it kind of more clear why we exist and do you belong here?
Yeah,
you have a project or are looking for one, you belong here.
Yeah, and that'll just filter out a lot of bots anyways. So, and Now, on our rules right now, if you are a friend of someone else, well, they may still have to answer the questions, but right now they're auto-accepted if they're a friend of someone that's already in the group.
They have one friend, they're auto-accepted?
That's already in the group.
If you try and join the group and you have at least one friend already in the group, then you automatically join. It doesn't go through the approval queue.
Yeah.
So we've had
I know the
16
Game B
people.
group doesn't do that because I know Julie was a member and I went to join and I still had to.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely we still go through. You have to answer the questions.
Yeah, so that's one piece we have turned on that we may want to turn off. I don't know if you have questions, whether it still auto adds you or still requires you to answer the questions. I guess it really doesn't matter. It really depends on the purpose of the questions. If it's just to filter out bots, then it'd be useful just to have one or two questions. Yeah, it doesn't really matter too much what they are. And I think what you said sounded great.
I think what's your project or what kind of projects are you interested in? One.
Yeah.
Answer one or the other. And then even links to your project so we can, because we are the one Game B place also that projects are allowed to join, right? Like we let pages and groups in that aren't our human being because it makes sense.
Yeah. And I think you could ask that all in, at least the first question, all in one question, and just say, if you have a project, tell us about it. If not, what type of projects are you interested in? Because I don't know. I guess you can leave certain questions blank. Yeah. So either way.
And then the other question is, because they go away as soon as they're asked, is this just for bots and then they're in, we're fine? Or do we want to have a procedure of whoever's letting that person in copies and pastes it to a document so we have a list of who people are and what their projects are coming in, and then we can always ask going back. We know what ours are, but...
For everyone? Because with 200 members, it's going to be difficult to track all of them, especially if like even half of the people joined and don't have projects and are not very interested in helping with projects. They just joined to see what's going on. So I would suggest keeping track only of the projects that people proudly announced they are creating or they are actively helping with.
So how do you want them? So how are you going to have them projects? Okay, so you said people have said that they've got projects. Where are you going to keep that then? Or are you just going to do a document
Generally
for that? Well,
I think it's to be decided yet.
Oh, right, okay, sorry.
Track of it.
Yeah, it's just, when people are being, if we just let them in, no matter how beautiful or horrible they answer the questions, it just goes away into the ether and Facebook, right? So if we're asking that question, do we want to copy and paste it? Or when we do the welcome post each week, and people choose to put it under there, then we have a record and we can go in and later look at that.
Yeah, I'd rather limit it just to the welcome post.
Okay.
I think a lot of times when people are answering those questions, they don't put a lot of thought into it, or at least let me just put it this way: I don't put a lot of thought. I just want to make sure I get into the group, so I'd wait till they post on the.
All right, sounds good. So I'm not ignoring the Facebook user or the Facebook conversation, but it just says Facebook user. I'm gonna guess it's Shiloh, but I don't know quite yet. There's Billy, but
Yes, it's Shiloh.
all right. Hi, Shiloh. All right, so yeah, we already talked about that. We talked about that. We'll have questions and we will change it so it's not auto accept, and we won't copy and paste them, but there will be a question so people kind of know what we're up about and what they're joining for. Are they in the right place? Are we Game B? No, Game B is not even Game B.
Right.
So
There is
no
Game B.
The other topic that I had on the agenda that I announced in the projects was the outsourcing to Venezuela, which I feel like I should have learned how to say before coming on, but I haven't been able to say it for years, so I don't think it's going to happen in the next few minutes. But there's something, when Daniel posted his post of looking for people in Venezuela and wanting to pay them, there was something where I was like, we all have projects we want people to work on. Is there a way to kind of do something? I'm not saying we're committing to it, but OmniWin that helps all of our projects and helps them, of course, get employed. I feel that most people who speak English and have tech as their actual thing are employed in Venezuela. Like they don't actually have, but there's people who maybe only speak Spanish and have tech and or are like data entry level, right, and speak English. And would there be a way to kind of I want to say mass employ, but that's the wrong, to create an OmniWin solution, right, for our projects. And I have this inkling that there's going to be more countries like Venezuela happening.
Yeah. Was there a reason why he specifically mentioned Venezuela?
Well, they make like $10 a month from there. And so there's the possibility of paying someone a couple $100 a month that is decent for them and not,
so I wouldn't limit it to any particular geographic location, but yeah, I think having some, or as a group, vetting either individuals or contract companies, because even there's a lot of companies that would help manage that, and I think they're worth their money for like a project that Adria or I are doing. But what I've never really done is gone through and vetted those organizations. And even for some startups in my local area that I'm mentoring, the question always comes up. So I need to hire some devs for a small project, and I don't want to pay a lot. What do I do? It'd be nice to have an answer for them. I just haven't dedicated the time to say, okay, I'm going to find either, or both, some contract individuals, and use them on a small project, see how they go, and then maybe even there are some organizations, I can't remember what they're called, but contracting companies where we would vet a few of those and kind of have a list of, hey, these are people we know we've used, so when you're going out there on Upwork or freelance, you're not going to get screwed, which has happened to several. I've had funded startups in the Dallas area that have showed me some stuff that they got that was pretty bad, and they spent tens of thousands of dollars, and they ended up with an app that's not even close to working. So that would be a beneficial thing, I think, to do. So I guess I'm just saying yes. That was a really long yes. We should do that.
Now I am I'm looking on Upwork just to see like what's out there in Venezuela, and there are, where's the number? Does it actually have the number of matches? Over 5 pages of matches of just people who are in Venezuela and are in the like web, mobile, and software dev group. Now, in my experience, anybody that's going to be on Upwork, they're kind of used to like, they slowly get more and more used to charging like, first world prices or Western prices, or like I'm seeing, 10, 15, 20, 30, there's somebody here charging $35 an hour. So I'm not sure if that fits with that, or if we're like looking at somebody who's maybe not quite, at the level where they can get away with charging $35 an hour, but there's still.
I don't know. In my area, it's $150 an hour, so 35 is a bargain.
Right. Yeah. But I think it's still good. But if we're talking about like, hey, if these people are used to making $6 a month, then if we can figure out something where they're making $200 a month, that's a massive increase. And now I'm not sure if that's just sort of like more like the manual labor jobs where like you can't outsource it and you have to be there. And I don't like the term unskilled.
It's their government jobs pay them $6 a month, which is not in any way enough to live on. It's not like their standard of living, like where you can't live anywhere for $6 a month.
Right.
But yeah, exactly. Having kind of almost like, I guess, like TogetherTec employees, like 1 or 2 people that's like, hey, if we paid out X amount and they were working on wiki election and this and that, but we're, and then as more is needed, they possibly have more people to recruit. or I just of like the go-between that I guarantee there are people who are amazing at tech and development but don't speak English. They can do it in Spanish, right? And having someone else who's not necessarily tech but speaks Spanish, and maybe that's the problem, is you kind of need to have both tech and Spanish, but being a liaison, they'd get much more money probably, but being able to coordinate. But that was just things sparking, me starting fires,
Okay.
What I do.
I will say, in my experience, and Matush and Bentley might have something to say here, but tech for the most part is English. Like coding is pretty much always done in English. So if you're a coder, I don't think I've ever met a coder that didn't at least speak like some English.
I've worked with several developers that their English was not sufficient to communicate with, and we needed a translator. I've worked with some companies. The company that I worked for supplied a translator. The companies I didn't work for that I fired did not supply a translator, and they just had guys that didn't speak great English. And it'd be okay if I spoke that language, but they need to be able to communicate. So there's a lot of people that can code but can't speak in enough way to do that. And so I do think having someone who is really familiar with the language that they use commonly is a huge benefit. It does add to the cost, but
yeah, it sounds like we're starting to get like a really narrow subset of people who are like tech, speak good English, and aren't already on something like Upwork or like doing something where they're making reasonable money in the area and not the $6 a month.
So part of this goal, which I didn't see the post, but was, hey, there's some people that are getting screwed, so we want to help them.
Right.
So yeah, if that was the goal, then I would say it would be good if we found one person that could speak their language and be a liaison, and then they might also help, maybe even in that area, and they would help find people, and as part of our process, they would be, they wouldn't even have to be great developers, because it would be part of, growing that society and helping that community and that culture grow their skills. So yeah, I don't know if we have enough funding in the group. I mean, it's great if they don't cost that much, but I don't know if we have actually enough dollars going through to be really impactful in that.
Yeah,
But
it was
it's
more
really fun.
also like if there was a space for data entry, right? Something that actually doesn't take tech skills, is more just basic literacy, but they don't speak English. Having that liaison and finding like, how do we get people jobs that we, can hire them for that are more, and would that help, right? Because solution raising doesn't necessarily need that. Process raising doesn't need that at the moment, but Wikilection might and Gillybot might, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a chance that some of our projects will get to a point it's like, oh, we just need every name of every governor in the United States, or every all the people down.
That's something that, although I guess Upwork's actually changed their pricing model since I last used it for that. But that's actually what I started out using Upwork for scraping government information. And you could find people for like $3 or $4 an hour, but I think they've changed their pricing now. I don't think you can get somebody under, I want to say $5, which is still pretty good. But if we're talking about like 100 hours, I'm not sure like how much. Because in the video that I think Julie, you either posted or forwarded it or whatever, talking about Venezuela and then making $6 a month, yeah, it's broken because then they also showed like here's a food cart on the street where they're selling hot dogs for $10. So like you can work for two.
You
so
get 3 hot dogs for the month.
Yeah, exactly, and that's it. That's all you get. And then I think they're talking about like hamburgers or like a full meal is $10 and that type of thing. And so you're like, yeah, that's obviously there are people there making some, and so I'm not sure how that, because it's just the guaranteed work that's the government job, and how many hours a month is that? I'm not sure. And
if they're going to be helping us out, they need to have some sort of internet access.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty important.
And I know also in Bennett that part of the reason they're in this mess is they have subsidized oil, that like their oil tanks are so you can fill up your tank and go across the border and then possibly sell it and do that. I'm not saying you're getting people to do that, But I don't know whether internet is kind of under that same umbrella, right? Whether they're like, hey, we're a socialist country, we have like, yes, you get free internet and free gas, but you can't afford food. We're only paying you $6 a month, right? Like what they do have access to, right? Do they have computers and internet and they just need to be connected with people who have?
And another technology to kind of go through, which I don't know if we could focus this down to a particular area or group of people that we know, but there's the Amazon Mechanical Turk, which is something you'd probably also use for scraping data.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you could focus that towards like, oh, we want to help people in this area and stuff, but just to throw it out there.
Yeah, I don't think, I think that kind of has the same limitation as Upwork in that if they're on there, they're already making some money. Like it's, probably somewhat reasonable. And I wasn't a big fan of Mechanical Turk when I tried it. I did like Upwork more. Because in my experience, it was very data focused. Like you could sort of build your thing on like, okay, here's a record. I want you to go find this and do this research. Yeah. It would be great for that, going out and finding government officials or.
Amazon would fit better when you don't care who does the work.
True.
And then Upwork's more like, I'm going to vet this person a little bit before they do the work, and I'll have one person doing it. So it really depends on the style of work, on what's better.
Yeah.
But it's unlikely our projects, the Mechanical Turk, will work real well because it takes so much setup, and we don't need that much data. I mean, you could have like one person going in and finding the website for every community, every city, right?
Yeah.
In a hemisphere or something, and then the other then that could go in, and then someone would say, okay, find the city's, teachers union or something like that,
Right. Yeah. And that's something where I prefer personally to work on something like Upwork, so I can just keep working with the same person, and I can learn like, oh, this person is good. Like when I first started doing it, I was on a project where we hired 10 people, and 3 of them were good. Like 3 of them actually produced really good results, and it was quality, and like they agreed with each other because we had multiple people scrape the same thing to see like, okay, these people don't agree with anyone, their stuff isn't good. But then the 3 that were, we kept working with them for years.
Something like, I mean, we don't really need this. It was just me trying to, like I said, start fires of like, there is part of me that's like, we get them. Can I get 10,000 of them together, even if I don't speak their language, and have them to have a solution raising for their own society? But that's a whole other fire to start, and not so.
Yeah, because the initial post was about using resources. It's the wrong word, but helping people who have basically no work, and they're good at something for which there is no need right now in the country, right? And it sounded very positive. And in this conversation, we also started talking about the work that is not paid as well in the first world, and it sounded kind of, I don't know, it would be nice to be aware of the difference between one and the other, right? Or is it just me that my mind just caught?
You mean like both sides of the OmniWin, Matush? Like that we need cheap labor. Let's be honest, we have no money, and we want cheap labor, and for them to make a good wage and be able to support their families, and how do those 2 needs get met, and separating them so that like we're not conflating the 2. Is that what you're?
Yeah, it's just I'm kind of afraid of from being positive and helping people, so we don't go the route of outsourcing work that just because it's cheaper over there. It's something I had some contact with previously, and it wasn't very positive. I'm not sure how to
sounds like kind of trying to find the spot in the Venn diagram where like they overlap, and it's like cheap labor, and where that cheap labor isn't exploitative, like where it's actually still helpful to that person. Like I remember back in, this is like the late 90s, I think, that there was an article that came out on Slashdot where like there was all this hype around like, oh, we're taking advantage of the people in India because we're paying them so little. and then they had an interview with somebody from India that was doing this and talking about, like, how do you feel about being paid such a small amount? He's like, my rent is $80 a month. So if I make $2 an hour, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't remember the exact numbers, but it ended up being like, oh, okay, it actually is. Like here, it's actually good for them. The only real issue is that, in theory, that's taking away jobs from somebody here. But if we're talking about people like me and Bentley and anyone else paying out of our own pocket for a project, we don't have the money to pay somebody $50 an hour for it, because then I couldn't pay rent.
True.
And I mean, honoring, sorry, go Mantush.
No, I thought even if it was possible, the best way of just making it happen, apart from like them doing the work, would be to duplicate what like outsourcing the idea of TogetherTec, so they do the same thing. They come together and talk about solutions that are good for them with all the local context. So that's something that could be connected to this equation as well. Cheap labor, yes, it's nice to have, but then helping them as the like title of this thing, and at the same time spreading the idea of like making stuff happen together, as we discuss here. So and that's something different from how normally in the world people do it. So exporting that idea as well and teaching them how to do it this way, that could be even like the most beneficial part of this.
Yeah, I love that, because it sounds like then it might naturally emerge that they're like, hey, do you have work for us? We cost less. You know what I mean? Like there's like just how you're helping Adriel and Bentley do their projects. I'm not saying necessarily cost less, but like that, right, it naturally emerges that like, why wouldn't I use somebody I trust and is here, but helping them come together and create solutions. And that's where I was like maybe doing a solution raising with them, even if I don't speak like the same language, like finding that and having it be something that's more, that's not what you're saying, but like ground up their solutions. What do they need, and how can we omni-win with them instead of for them? Or
especially if my experience with outsourcing is basically one of the corpus I worked for before. When they talked about hiring people in like Far East, the main point was, yeah, we need 10 of them because they cost this much. And the emphasis was on how much it costs as opposed to, UK programmers, which it was just bad for many reasons. But, and we never, and the company never actually understood the like local context for them, and it was also bad because we just couldn't agree on basic things because of the cultural differences. So it was bad. And in this case, there are differences, but they definitely might and should be used. The diversity thing. They might have solutions and ideas that we don't, and we can import that from them, as well as we can let them know about the solutions and the way of thinking we have. So yeah, there's a mutual like cooperation, which is beneficial for all parties involved. Just a thought.
something emerging in my brain of like having, and this would be for them to do, but having like a house in Venezuela where people can come and stay, learn to code, learn to become tech workers, that they can possibly be paid to do that. And then they then have a real, like skill that can be outsourced anywhere, right? That they can outsource. It's not about now we own you and you have to work for us. It's like how do they empower themselves and then empower the next people who come through and the next people come through and have it be a regenerative system where people and that they're fed and provided a house while they're learning to code and possibly have enough, $100 a month to live for their families. I'm sorry, to support their families. I don't even know if $100 a month is enough. But if they're getting fed, then that would be for them to figure out what that looks like.
One of my dreams for like a long time was having a worldwide network of hacker spaces. Precisely houses that can promote technical ideas and people come together and do stuff for fun, technical stuff for fun.
Hacker spaces.
And maybe profit, but hacker spaces, yes. That's what they are called.
Okay. Is that physical hacker spaces or just online?
Physical, no, definitely. Well, you can, these days you can virtualize pretty much everything. So, but the original idea for hackerspace was just a house or like a flat or whatever, physical space full of stuff where people could actually physically come together and do and learn from each other. And it was not an organization even, it was just people coming together.
Right, okay.
And it was
ideas.
That also helps get around to we're not sure how available internet is there. Well, if we can be sure that the hackerspace has internet, then that's all we really have to care about for that, and there would have to be computers and monitors and all that jazz. But that helps sort of alleviate that, where it's like if you kind of know it, but you don't have the resources, cool, you can go here and use them. And then you don't own it, but you'd be getting paid, and then eventually you might be able to buy your own.
Networked hacker housing, like Coders Without Borders is what, and it was more for in Canada itself. Like it's so expensive to hire people here. $100,000 a year is what you would need to pay to compete with Google at least, right? But having it be like, hey, you're a baby coder, right? You're just graduating, come live rent-free, learn and offer your skills for 6 months to a year. The idea that could work in other countries and it could be from the ground up where they're connected with each other, but no one's top down, like this is how it works. It's like, hey, what projects do you want to work on? Whether it's for yourself and it's for profit or what it's for.
It's interesting because then it seems like kind of seeing how well some of the Game B principles work in a country that's not really that Game A.
Exactly. They have a head start. But just one thing that can I point out, it's maybe it's not that they are cheap labor. Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe US, Canada, and UK are countries with totally overblown prices. So, and the question is why, and also the answer, part of the answer is food, shelter, and everything like bottom of the Maslow's pyramid is just overpriced in some countries, and therefore. So it would be nice to, so that's a very long, far away thing, but work together. So it's not that the prices are leveled, but so that the same standard of living can be reasonably and easily kept in all countries. So some countries need to up, some countries can, something like that. Sorry.
Yeah, I think some of it is just a peculiarity of different economies interacting, because not all countries, of course, but in some of them, I do an hour's worth of, how many hours do I have to work in order to pay for my rent and my groceries? That's the same, even though in one place it's $10 and that same currency in the other place would be worth 100, a different number of hours. So it's just kind of a quirk of an undesigned economic system, and so yeah, and that is kind of evening out. I mean, that's been one of the problems. India used to be cheap for us, but it's not, and that's great for them. Hopefully,
absolutely.
that benefited their their society and their group.
I think it's been the same thing in China too. Like as these jobs go over there that don't pay much by our standards, it pays a lot by their standards, and so it starts to kind of raise everyone up because now there's more money in the local economies. And the people who are doing it, like they're ballers over there. The coders from India who were, in like the late 90s, early 2000s that were making pennies by our standards were doing very well locally.
It's ironically what Milton Friedman kind of was saying, that this is what's going to happen, though he kind of omitted lots of other things that are not as great.
Skipped a couple steps, but there's some benefit. And, there's a lot of it is sort of in how you actually do it and how you treat people in the sort of spaces that you do, right? Like, are there windows, are there lights, or is it, is it like a nice space to work, or is it like, a sweatshop? That's a pretty big difference for the day-to-day, spending 40 hours a week in a place.
Or 60 hours a week in a place, depending on the country, right?
Or even just 2 hours a week in a place. Like if it's bad enough, no thank you.
Yeah, but I think as we do hire people out, and it would be kind of hypocritical if we didn't think of an omni-win.
Yeah,
solution.
I think that's super important.
And the impact of our dollar spend in the lives of the people that are receiving it is something for us to consider. Yeah.
And that's one of the benefits, and that can actually kind of be one of the selling points is, hey, if you're new at this, you'll be making some money, which will also be an experience from people who worked in this industry, and learn the terms and how things operate. And so then if you want to go to a place like Upwork and start charging, closer and closer to Western prices, this gets you on that road.
I guess we don't have anyone else other than Adria right now that's willing to spend some or has some funding, regardless of where it came from, to spend, right?
As far as I know.
Daniel doesn't. He wants to move his project forward, but I don't think he's investing. Anyone's investing in it right
now. Wonder if that's kind of a dollar value thing, right? Like if they could spend $50 or $100 a month, but if they're like, I know that to get started, it's going to be $500 a month minimum, so I'm not even going to bother. But if we're like, hey, could you afford $50 a month to, get 5 or 10 or however many hours of somebody's time a month? Well, okay, that might be reasonable. Like I might be able to.
And that was more what I was like, is there if we could pool our resources and hire one person, right, so they know they have enough work, was kind of where my mind was going. But if we only have 2 projects, and that doesn't really work. But there's something percolating of worker cooperatives in each of any country that wants to start one, and beyond just a workers cooperative where you have to pay X amount of money, like co-living part of it, like a hackerspace co-living, so that they a program they can run together, bring people together, live together, and choose which projects they work on. Things like our projects that are world changing or not, right? It's things that are I'll work for IBM, I'll work for Microsoft, whatever that happens to be, they're agreeing on together, but also interconnected with one another, so that, and I have no idea how that works when we all speak different languages, but my guess is it with translation and with enough people speaking a common Venn diagram of language, right, that it actually does kind of work out powerfully and beautifully.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, just never had time. Would be fun.
Yeah, me too.
I've tried. I suck at all the languages.
And that might actually be so for example, if Eduardo wanted to act as a translator, maybe he doesn't have to pay. Maybe we all chip in a bit to pay for his part and he acts as a translator. And that's sort of one of the, because that's an important skill set that, not many people in this group have.
Yeah, and another thing to think about if there is some sort of hackerspace like that in areas, also training people on how to do this work as being a part of it. They could come in knowing nothing or very little or just a little bit, and then, I think, it's kind of hard to figure out how much do you pay for that, how do you make it worth their time, all that stuff. But I feel like there's something there that we could figure out the minutia of the details.
It's interesting. It sounds like instead of a tech project incubator, it's a tech person incubator.
Oh, yeah. That sounds great. Decentralized, autonomous TogetherTec.
But this is where all the network. I know I've only spoken to Jubilee about this, but this is where all the network of people starts. You know what I mean? So if we've been, say like 6 months down the line, I've been working with you all on the CRM stuff, we'd know who to ask. You know what I mean? We'd have all the information there about to maybe start something with, who's interested in that idea. You know what I mean?
Right.
So from all the work that you've done previously, having these conversations and that, had that been, implemented in the beginning, you would have known, and right, let's send so and so over there to do that for what, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's all about having the network there and knowing who everybody is. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, we just haven't had that skill set so far, and we're very big on, who are we assigning that to? No one, right? Like, it's not like we didn't know that was needed. We just can't, within our skill set and capacity, be able to do it.
Well,
so having people
I'd love to help you with all of that and get that up to speed. You know what I mean? Because I said I love meeting people. You know,
it's awesome. We're very happy to have you. We are at the hour. Should we say goodbye to YouTube and Facebook, unless anyone has any closing? Someone's mentioned the Polymath Factories. I don't know what this is, or are they just naming it for us?
I think they were just naming it for us.
Polymath Factory. That's a great name.
Love it. Love it. All right. Goodbye, YouTube and Facebook.